All right.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Frame Live. My name is Dottie San Martin, and we have a very exciting show planned for you today. You know, we have Adam Grant, and Adam is a youth marketing specialist, and he's also the CEO and co founder of Campus Commandos. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk to Adam and find out a little bit about how we can attract college students and find out just a little bit more about college students and what they're all about. Today with the pandemic and really more than ever, businesses are trying to get back on their feet. They're trying to get their businesses back to be successful and bring those customers back that have been, sheltering in place for so many months. And now every single one of our customers are very important. Not that they haven't been in the past, but every single customer is very important to us. Bowling being one of the favorite, all-American favorite pastimes for years and years and years, we have appeal to the silent generation, to the Gen Zers, and everything in between. But today we want to talk about college students and how that particular demographic and the college students really work and how we can incorporate them into our business. So Adam, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It feels like Groundhog Day a little bit. Same old same with the limited amount that everyone can do during COVID and the new reality of having these virtual talks, but always happy to see humans on the other screen here during this time.
Absolutely. You are so right. Everything is different now. And, as you and I were chatting earlier, you would think maybe it would be a little bit easier if you're behind a camera and you're not having to prepare to do it in front of hundreds of people. But golly, I don't know about you, but for me, it's an even bigger challenge because I want to make sure that we are delivering what the customer wants to hear. So I have no doubt that today that we are going to do just that because you have, Campus Commandos, obviously with the name campus in the title, you specialize in college students and drawing in college students and making a relationship with college students. And that is, as I said, being in the bowling or entertainment industry, we are very fortunate that we have appeal and we can accommodate elderly people. We can accommodate, our grandparents bowling with our 4-year-old grandchild. And we do have that appeal to everybody. But when it comes to attracting those people, it certainly isn't a one size fit all plan. And that especially holds true with college students. Am I correct?
Yes, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. And I'll say, answer 3 questions when you are thinking about college students. Number 1, what is your ideal college student? Is it the college student that's going after price? So you may be doing things like, for 21 and up, $3, $2 beer night. Or is it the college student that's going into your center that takes a lot of pictures, so is looking more for that environment, that environment feeling? So it's not every college student. What is your ideal college student? And then, what is your ideal message when you get that student's attention? And then, what is the ideal time frame, especially when you have colleges close by, taking a look at their academic calendars and deciding when to press play on your marketing.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we chatted briefly about before we went live was the fact that, if I am wanting to do something today with the pandemic, it's really changed the way colleges do, have programs and stuff for their students. And so that in itself has changed. And as a result, we have to change as well. But with many of the students being online only now, they're not necessarily on campuses. So you really can appeal, even if you don't have a college or university in the town where you are, you still should have a program in place designed for students to bring in those college students, because who's to say they're not doing their classes from home now? And when you
Right.
start to put a program together for college students, let's just say we have Thursday night college night. One of the things that I found quite interesting that you shared with me earlier before we went live was, when you're putting a program like that together, be mindful of what the students want. Can you share a little about what you shared with me on that?
Yeah, the good news is students are looking for activities right now. And when I think of family entertainment centers and bowling centers, I think of very large parking lots. So I would be taking advantage of your parking lots right now and moving as many activities into those parking lots as possible. And I understand with some of the equipment that's, you can't do everything, but
Sure.
force yourself to be creative. Here in the Detroit area, a popular sport is bowling, and it uses the similar equipment to bowling, where you have two beanbag boards and you have your pins set up, and instead of bowling balls, you're utilizing footballs, but that still brings people, within the sport.
Sure.
And then also know that as students are driving by, walking by, everyone is mobile first right now. So have a big banner where it says text, 5689 to Bowling Rocks, to figure out what's going on in your parking lot. And the advantage of that is, once they do that with the technology, you can grab their information to continue the conversation. So take advantage of your parking lot, have some sort of mobile call out, and then finally, when you're looking at everything, say, does this encourage a picture? Because if it does, you're doing things right, because people are going to want to take a picture, and what are they going to do? They're going to share it online, and that's going to expand your reach. So, be very visual when you're thinking about your parking lot as well.
That's right. I always say, make sure it's Insta-worthy. Make sure it's Insta-worthy. Well, that brings up another point with, you hear UGC and user-generated content, and that's something, that's very organic advertising for centers. And people say, well, how do I get user-generated content? How would you answer that?
Yeah, it goes back to that last point of, does it whatever you're doing, does it encourage a picture? If it doesn't, then no one's going to naturally take out their phones and take a picture of it, so you're losing out on that user-generated path. The other one is having a feedback system. Do you have it? Are you asking for feedback? Because when you get that feedback, you could turn around and utilize that as user-generated content.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, yes, you're exactly right. And when it comes to putting programs in place for college students, you mentioned something to me prior to our call that I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about today, because it's something that I had never thought about, and it was a brilliant idea. I had shared with when you start to put a program together for college students, you want to make sure that you're putting a program together that's appealing to them. And you had mentioned something that you recommend to people, to kind of vet that program and make sure that it is something that's appealing to that age group. Can you share with our viewers what that was?
Yeah. Yeah, if you are a center that is close to a college campus, community college, trade school center, a lot of these schools are working with real world clients in the classroom. So I went to Michigan State University, go green, and as an advertising major, that class was advertising 486. We took a real world client, we developed a plan, and we presented that plan. So professors want to work with local businesses to give their students real world experience. So present these questions to them. Maybe you want to develop a college night.
Mm-hmm.
Present that. That's a great classroom activity. If you're not a center that is near a college campus, any advertising you're doing toward the younger demographic, or really any demographic, you want to ask yourself, does it scream one big ad? So typically you might see a picture of a bowling center and contact information. That's not going to be a great call to action to those looking to expand their reach outside of bowlers. So, put it in front of family members, put it in front of sons, daughters, friends, say, does this look like one big ad? Is an exercise that I do for a lot of things. We have a student network, so we're able to vet things before we press the play button. So we're not relying 100% on, just a few people's opinion.
Right. And, today's younger generation, if they feel like they're being advertised to, that typically they do not respond as well to that as they do something that feels more natural, that's speaking to them instead of speaking at them. And so, so I love the idea of having the class kind of help weigh in on ideas that you have. But how do you get your foot in the door? Do you have any tricks?
Right. So I would go to specific departments on college campuses. So those departments are typically student activities board, student government. You can go to the student union and call and figure out what their activities are on campus, and ask, how can I add value to those activities? Not all colleges have their activities occur on campus. So if you have the room, that's a way that you can add value. So, ask that question. It will never hurt.
Wonderful. And when we're talking about students, they obviously, students love the social aspect. They love to come out. They love to have their friends. They love to do things as a group. And so, as we're thinking of ways that we can attract students to our center, we also need to remember that there's organizations that are comprised of college students that are looking for social activities. They're looking for places to meet and things along those lines. So do you find that those groups also, when you go to market to those groups, do you typically go to where do you start? If you're wanting to get in front of the student activities and the different organizations that are on campus, to offer them, a place to meet and some programs, would you say go through the student activities department?
Yeah, and maybe you're not necessarily next to a college or university, but I will say that everyone leaves a digital footprint. So I'll use Michigan State as an example. If you go to studentlife.msu.edu, most of the student organizations are listed right on the website. And when you click within a specific organization, then it brings up the contact information. And if the school doesn't have that, go to Facebook, type in the name of the school, and then a key term. It could be Michigan State Bowling. And then if the student organization has a social media page, that would come up, whether you're doing it on Facebook or Instagram. Everyone leaves a digital footprint, so start typing in those terms for your local area and reach out. Even our own organization, we would participate in a lot of student ambassador programs, and so I will go to Google Alerts or Warble Alerts and type in key terms that I want to know about as soon as someone types it in within a local area. So I would go to those like Google Alerts, type in, you probably want to be a lot more specific than bowling, but you want to get an alert when a conversation is started online about your topic interest so you can jump in and join that conversation. When someone likes your Facebook page or comments on a social media post,
Mm-hmm.
you're likely checking on that right away. It makes you feel good.
Yes.
So think about that and get yourself involved in that online conversation. And the best part is it costs $0 to set alerts on Google Alerts, or Warble Alerts is a free tool as well, and that allows you to scrape social media pages like Twitter, Instagram. So whenever hashtags that fit your target are on those sites, it'll automatically send you an email. So it's a nice
Oh,
nice
nice.
trick. It helps you scale. Yeah.
And is that Warble, Warble?
Yes.
Okay, I will put that in our comments on our Facebook live stream. So that's very helpful. Very helpful. Um, so
Yeah.
so Adam, as we said, every single demographic that a bowling center can accommodate, which is a wide spectrum from the silent generation to the Gen Zers, there are certain things, there are certain characteristics that that really light up that particular audience. So when it comes to college students, what would you say are some of the characteristics that really light them up, that they, I know one thing in particular that I just attended YMS, where you were one of the speakers, and I know that
Mhm.
that today's students really like to support causes. And that's one thing that's very
Right.
important. So that's a characteristic that when I'm looking at building my program to bring in college students, or that even that age group, that's something that I want to be mindful of, that I want to build my program with a cause in mind, because I know that's important to them. Are there other things that you have identified that are very important to college students?
Yeah, I mean, number one is mobile first. 2020 has definitely amplified that because of us, being stuck
Sure.
indoors. So really, it's the only semblance of normal, whether they've been sent home because of COVID, or taking classes from some faraway remote location. That mobile phone is really the semblance of normal. So I would say number one, have a mobile strategy, and this goes beyond college students. Your
Hmm.
friends. I mean, how many times do you see them with their mobile device right in front of them? Second is, I'm seeing popularity in gamification. And Dottie, your organization is doing a great job with gamification within the
Absolutely.
bowling industry,
Hyperbowling
and you're
is
seeing, yeah, and you're seeing that in other sports as well, that are saying, well, that's my dad's sport, that's my grandpa's sport.
that's
Golf is
right.
a perfect example of that. And you've seen, gamification within Top Golf take off, and the PGA Tour and more professional organizations seeing that and wanting to get more involved with Top Golf to bring more, users into the game. So I love the gamification that your organization is doing, because that is huge to bring in individuals that don't bowl, or just think of bowling as, well, I'm not any good, I have to throw a strike, and implementing things like you just have to hit, this time you only want to hit one pin. So a lot more people can hit one pin than can bowl a strike. So
Yes.
mobile gamification, and just having that open line of communication. This goes for any business. How are you going to get better if you're not already talking to your existing customers, or frankly, anyone, the local area, the local community? So you see national chains doing this by printing something on their receipts. Subway, you get a free cookie for giving your feedback. So give something very small for that feedback, because that feedback is going to make sure you continue to stay ahead, and you're not put out of business because someone thought of something that your customers have been telling you for a long time. You just haven't been able to, have that listening ear.
For sure. Well, it's and I too, I think, uh, this industry has evolved, and what once was thought of as a very sports oriented pastime has now evolved. It's a very social, uh, it's an
Right.
entertainment experience. And the one thing that I think is important is when you do introduce gamification and you deviate from what the normal mindset that people have of bowling. Um, Bowling has evolved. It's not what it was 20 years ago. And it's your job to make sure that if you have a, 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 a different type or a different program that's exciting, that is appealing to, say, the college students, this gamification, or in our case, if you have hyperbowling, you have to make sure that you are showcasing what you have that's making you different, because it's those things that are going to appeal to the younger generation. So, anything else that you feel like is something that really attracts him? Or maybe on the other end of it, is there anything that you want to steer away from when trying to attract a college student?
Yeah. Really, it's just making sure you stick with the basics of answering those three questions at the beginning. What is your ideal college student? What is your ideal time frame? What is your ideal message? And just making sure you have measurements, as you might not hit the nail on the head the first time. But one other, you mentioned that bowling is getting outside of just the sport. It's becoming activity. It's fun, and any level can do it. And you already supply the equipment. I think that's one reason that Topgolf took off, is I don't have to have the heavy barrier of investment of golf clubs, because even a beginner set $200.
You're right.
So you already have it. So one thing that another activity I thought of is, are you formulating activity lists and getting those activity lists at the beginning of school years, at orientations at these schools, because everyone's constantly looking for activities. So creating, if I was to flyer, if you're into that, more of that traditional advertising of putting a newspaper ad in, or a TV ad, I would almost turn that into a flyer that's an activity list, and distributing that to local areas. But the key is, remember, you don't want to come across as one big ad. So an activity
Yes.
list would be no good if you're the only thing on it. So include a bunch of different activities within your area. And if it's a good list, they're going to go down it. They're going to
Yes.
treat it like a checkoff list. And we do have experience. I bring this up because it reminds me of a campaign we did with HP and their calculator division. Calculators is not a very sexy product. We are
You're
not going to
right.
make that cool. So what we did is we created back to school checkoff lists of what students need for back to school. So we included bedding, we included laptops, and of course we included calculators, and we gave very specific links on where to go for those calculators. And we noticed that people were visiting those links because they took it as wow, this is a very helpful back to school checklist. This isn't, advertising a calculator and saying, it's $89.99. I mean, that comes across as one big ad. So that is an example of how you can adjust some of that traditional
Sure.
advertising, still do it. And what are flyers? A couple of cents a piece. I mean, they're not that too expensive. So once you identify that ideal time frame, that can be that activity, getting it out there. Include some of the University Activities Board activities on there that could create a positive relationship with them if they have a limited budget. You're doing the printing and you're helping them out by including some of their activities.
Great
There's how
idea.
you can have a value add to both organizations. If they're struggling to get their activities out there, you can provide that printing cost, as long as you can put your activities on there and they can be your distribution channel.
That is a fantastic idea. Well, Adam, I thoroughly have enjoyed this show. I think that everybody that's watching, I'm sure there's one or two or 10 things that they have thought about since we've started this show that they can do at their center to bring in more college students. And before we close today, is there any last minute tips that you would like to leave our viewers with, or
Yeah,
words of
I'm
wisdom?
very much a speaker that likes to throw ideas with some case studies to support it versus showing you statistics. Saying that 99% of college students have a mobile device. I mean, it's great to look at statistics, but what are companies doing with those statistics? So hopefully you have gained examples that you can take back and implement internally, other than a bunch of stats written on a page. Now you have to figure out, what to do with. So Dottie has my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions as long as it relates to college students. I love the demographic that I deal with. So hopefully some nuggets you can take back and implement internally, and hopefully I can hear how it goes.
Well, Adam, thank you so very much. I want to remind our viewers that next week on Wednesday at 3:00 p.m., we will be hosting a webinar. It's Goodbye 2020, Hello 2021. 3 steps to first quarter success. So who doesn't want to say goodbye to 2020? So mark your calendars now and plan to attend that webinar next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And until next time, Adam, once again, thank you. We hope that you stay safe, stay well, and think beyond the frame. Have a good day, everyone.